Om Namah Shivaya. Nice to see you here. It's nice to see people here at the ashram. We actually have guests. I know some of you wanted to come, but were unable to make it, but we're really happy we're able to still reach with you online. And it's actually very, very beautiful. This is not a fake Zoom background. Okay, it really is nice outside in nature. It's a pleasant, like not even 80 degrees right now here, so we're all like quite happy. It may be getting a little warmer over the weekend, but for today we're going to take this. It's been a nice break the last few days. So I'm supposed to talk about the Bhagavad Gita, especially as it's Karma Yoga, and especially as it applies to chapter 4, or the 4th discourse of the Bhagavad Gita. But I think I may have to back up a little bit so that you know what's putting here in the story, because it's part of a huge epic called the Mahabharata, but I won't have time to tell that. It's the biggest epic in the world, so I will keep it a little bit shorter. But to know that there is a war going on between the 10 Pandava brothers, or the 5 Pandava brothers, and the 100 Kaurava brothers. And they're actually cousins. They're cousins of each other. But because of a lot of things, they're in this war, and it's a righteous war. Okay, the Pandavas have tried everything they can to keep peace. They've trying to just do what is correct and dharmic. They're supposed to have a kingdom. The kingdom's been taken away by their cousins, and they're trying to just rule a little bit. And the cousins will refuse to let them have any land, not even the land that will fit on the pin of a head, the head of a pin, sorry. So because of that, we have this war happening now. And Arjuna goes into battle. Arjuna is one of the Pandavas, one of the good guys. And he's in this battle, and they're just about to start. Everybody's blowing their conches, banging their drums, cymbals, everything, and they're rattling their sabers, however you want to describe this noise going on. And he tells his chariot driver, who happens to be Krishna, to take him out into the middle of the battlefield. He wants to see both sides. Because remember, he's related to both sides. Right? One side's like his uncle and his cousins, and the other side is his family. And so he goes out in the middle, and he gives this long, very, very beautiful talk about why he doesn't want to go into battle. He doesn't want to go into battle. And if you've never read the Bhagavad Gita and you read his argument about why he doesn't want to go into battle, I mean, I know the first time I read Bhagavad Gita, I'm going like, okay, I get this. I understand this. He's talking about how, he doesn't want to destroy his family, right? That's his cousins. There's people over on the other side fighting that he actually, cares about, and thinks that they're worthy of respect. And he's going to have to, they're going to have to go into battle and, fight like they're really trying to kill each other. It's going to ruin society. He sees that it's going to be a very, very destructive war. Society is going to be ruined. It's, going to take forever for that society to come back. And his thoughts are, if I win, like, who wants to be the ruler if I have to do this to win, to be king? Do I really want to be king? And a king over what? Everyone will be destroyed. And if I lose, I won't have anything anyway. I don't have anything now. So no matter what I do, I don't like the outcome of either outcome. And so what does he decide to do? He decides, I'm not going to fight. He throws down his bow. I'm not going to fight. And this is where the teachings start, right? Because the first thing Krishna says, right? And again, first time reader, you may be thinking Krishna's going to say like, very good. Give up your kingdom for the sake of peace. This is what you should do, right? But that's not what Krishna says, right? And Krishna here is representing the highest teachings. Right? He's the divine being that's bringing the highest teachings. And he says, where did this come from? Stand up and fight. Don't be a wimp, basically. Everybody's looking. Stand up and fight. You're not doing your duty. Right? You have a duty to do this, and you're not doing it. You should stand up and fight. And at this point, Arjuna becomes the disciple. This is what we say is that crisis moment, because he's going, but isn't everything I said correct? And this represents us. And so whenever you're reading the Gita, I'm just going to encourage you, be Arjuna. Be Arjuna. You may not be a prince that's destined to be a king and has to go into battle against your cousins, right? But you are a disciple of the truth. And when the truth says, like, basically everything, all those skills that made you successful in life up to this point, they've led to a dead end. You've dead ended here. And you can't, and you're going to have to back up and try again. And we are very loath to give that up. In fact, Arjuna says that because it's one of my favorite lines from the second discourse, when Arjuna says, like, I'm confused as to my duty. I'm confused as what's right to do. I'm going to turn to you, Krishna. You're wiser than I am. I'm turning to you. I'm surrendering to you. Whatever you say, I'm going to follow your teachings because this is what's correct. This is what is right. But I won't fight. I just love that. It's like I surrender completely. But I won't cross this line, right? He draws a line in the sand. That's the line I won't cross. And Krishna just kind of takes it like, okay, so let's start. Let's start the teachings. And the first thing Krishna does is he tries to give him a different point of view. Okay? It's like grabs him by the neck and hauls him up and like, quit looking at the, ground level here with your head just out of the hole, which is what, this is the human viewpoint. And grabs him by the neck and he hauls him up. He says, look at it from up here. Take a look at the world from up here. It's a different world. Because what happens when we come up here, we see that there's a whole bunch of options. There's a whole bunch of choice. There's a whole bunch of possibilities. But when we're down here, we always see the things as like, should I do this or shouldn't I do this? If I do this, I'm going to hate the outcome. So maybe I shouldn't do anything. We see the world in these two choices. And we think we can predict what's going to happen. If I do this, this is going to happen. If I don't do that, then something else will happen. Which choice should I make? And what Krishna does is Krishna gives Arjuna a change of viewpoint. See the world from a more divine viewpoint, from the viewpoint of your divine self, rather than looking at temporary things that are going to happen, temporary sufferings, temporary events and occurrences. Don't look at that. Try to look at it from a more divine viewpoint. Look at it not from, oh, is this going to hurt? It's like, I remember as a kid, like, wanting to take the bandage off and going like, I don't know if I want to do this. It's going to hurt, but I really want to see what's underneath. And you finally just go rip. This is when we're looking at it from our human viewpoint. You're more divine than that. You're greater than that. You're something besides this temporary body that experiences pleasure and pain. Look at it as being an eternal being. And then he gives him the third option. He says, now that you understand this, that you're not this body, that you're not this temporary being, now you have a third option. What's the third option? Just do the action, but let go of the results. And that's when he talks about the teaching of karma yoga. This idea that we do the action, but we don't do it in the spirit of being the doer or the beneficiary of the doer. We don't do the actions because of how it's going to affect me. Why do an action? Because it's the correct thing to do. It's the correct action. And in this case, Krishna is saying for Arjuna, the correct action for him to take is to go into battle, to fight this war. Now, does that mean that the Bhagavad Gita is pro-war, anti-peace? No, because he's telling Arjuna to go into war. Arjuna, this is your duty, right? Because of your karma, because of your past experiences in life and your past lifetimes, in this life, you have the duty to go into this battle and defeat your adharmic cousins, your cousins who are actually creating harm to other people. But there's, of course, a deeper symbolism to this, right? And the symbolism is that we have a choice of the battle that we're going to fight in our inner nature. We have our lower nature, which is our instinctual nature, and our lower emotions and our negativities that pretty much take over our mind and our life and become like the reigning power of our mind. And there is the part of us that is the intuitive side, higher nature, the divine nature. And are we going to go into that battle? And if you look at that battle, I mean, why are there 100 Kauravas and only 5 Pandavas? Right? Remember, Kauravas are representing our negative nature, our negative tendencies and our emotions and attachments. Pandavas representing our positive side. Well, it's nice to know we have 5 positives, but this versus 100 negatives. And that can be what it feels like when you start this battle, right? Every time you think you're making a little bit of progress, right? Oh, look at, I'm meditating every day. But while I sit and meditate, what am I watching? Like all these negative thoughts coming up. And memories of things that I said or did. I'm going like, blushing and I'm trying to sit still in meditation because I'm embarrassed. I really said that to somebody. I really did that. I really thought that about somebody. We start to see all those negativities. And it may be tempting to say, like, I don't want to fight. It's fine. So you're just let's let things be as it is. It's okay. I don't want to fight. And what is Krishna? Again, we take these teachings, go into the fight, go into the battle, and just do it. Why? Because it's the correct thing to do. Fight for Dharma, fight for what is correct, fight for what is right. So this is my little brief introduction into where we're at when we get to this 4th discourse, this 4th chapter. And Krishna is going to talk more about karma yoga. Okay. Is that clear? Okay. For an introduction. Everyone's got to understand? All right. So here we are. There's a couple of very nice quotes, not necessarily from the 4th discourse, but describing yoga. Okay. Describing yoga as one skill in action. Okay. What do I mean by skill in action? That we're going to do action, but we're going to do what? What's the skill? Discernment. Very good. Dispassion. Very good. Both very good. Okay. Viveka, Vairagya. These are the discernment or discrimination, right? And dispassion, like that, again, that letting go. Okay? Yoga is skill action. It's a very, very beautiful definition. It means that can we go about our daily life doing what we need to do without it affecting us, our mental calm, our mental tranquility, our peace of mind. So one of the famous things about the Bhagavad Gita is it takes place on the battlefield. Right? So the word Kurukshetra, you have to understand Sanskrit, words come from roots that have specific meanings. So you can start to trace what the word means, but also that we've put words together and hooked them together. So Kurukshetra is, sometimes it depends on how like you divide it, because it kind of loses a letter sometimes and things, and you can break the word up into different ways and the translation change. Well, one says Kurukshetra is the name of a field, right? You can go to Kurukshetra, go to India. There is a plain called Kurukshetra, and is considered to be a very famous place where the battle of the Mahabharata took place. But Kurukshetra can also be divided as a word that means field of action. The same Kuru coming from the same root as karma does. Right? This field of action. And so the idea is that it's representing that the practice of yoga is not going to a cave and sitting quietly and doing my meditation without anybody disturbing me, without any influx from any place else, and I just sit there very quietly and I can get along with the world great. I have no problems with anybody. I'm just sitting in my cave. No noisy neighbors. Nobody not listening to me, not doing what I want them to do, right? I'm just sitting in my cave. That's not where it happens, right? That the yoga takes place when we're on the field of action, when we're in the world, when we are moving about the world. As we move about the world, what's happening? Our karma is playing out. So again, karma, action, always implies the reaction. The actions I did in the past have left impressions on my mind, have left habits of my mind, but they've also left something that we call the latent fruits of my actions that are going to come back in a later life. And I'm going to be born to play these out. This is my prarabdha karma, the karma I'm given to live out this life. And I come into this world and I'm going to find myself in situations. Can I change those situations? Not very much. Because they're happening because they're the reactions to actions I've done in the past. Just like if I throw the ball and it bounces back. It's good karma, bad karma. I say if you make a serve in tennis and it's a perfect ace, I get bounces and it got enough spin on it, it bounces off to the side and the person on the other side of the net can't get it. Right? And I always ask, is that a good bounce or a bad bounce? Depends on which side of the net you're on. It's just a bounce. To the ball, it's just a bounce. Right? We judgmentally say it was good karma, good bounce or bad bounce. Just as we say, oh, this is good karma, bad karma. All right. Karma is what you make of it. It's just a karma. It's just a bounce. Now, what are you going to do with that bounce? Okay. So, for example, you had the karma of having a discourse on karma yoga at the yoga farm happening. And you had the good karma. I'm going to say it. You had good karma that you were able to be here for that, right? But what do you do with that karma? Because that's always the question. That's the moment by moment question we should be asking ourselves. Karma has led me here. What do I do now? Because that's how karma gets played out. One of the problems with karma, that why it's Swami Ramananda this morning said it's endless. It's endless karma, right? Because when karma puts us in a situation and then we do what? We do an action and that creates more karma that we're going to have to play out some other time. Yeah. So it seems endless, but there is an escape, right? And the escape is, what if I do action, but I don't attach myself to that action? If I don't attach myself to that action, it's like going to the bank and making a deposit, but forgetting to put the deposit slip in. Right? What happens to the money? They got the money, but they don't have an account to put it in. Right? If I do action without attaching to it, if I can truly be completely detached, if I can truly be identifying with that divine self, not this body that does things, not this body that's living out this karma, but if I can truly be just the witness, the observer, then that karma has no place to go. It doesn't come back. if I can truly be the non-doer while still doing action, that's the key. And that's what Krishna is trying to get Arjuna to understand. He's trying to get him to see that you go into this battle, but don't worry about whether you're going to win or lose. Just do what is correct. Do the best that you can and do what is correct. Because honestly, is there anything you do that you can control completely? There actually is nothing. But again, we suffer because we try to control the outcomes. We don't do something just because it's correct. We always have this wish, oh, I hope this works. Or, I hope they like my talk today. We can do anything. And, with cooks can be like, oh, I hope everybody raves about my pizza, right? Whatever it is you're cooking, right? But, and then you serve it and everyone, nobody says anything. I actually was, my best lessons of karma yoga, I was asked to, it was Shankaracharya's birthday, the celebration of Shankaracharya's birthday. And I was asked to cook a meal for like 100 people, right? And so I was at the center in New York. And I spent 3 days. I mean, I spent longer than that, like planning it. It was supposed to be a big Indian feast. And this is me. I made everything by hand, like I didn't buy chutneys or anything. I had to make every chutney by hand. I was like chopping peppers for hours, like 2 days ahead of time so that I could, I had it all planned out how I was going to time everything. And somebody came in, they're having this big satsang going on while I was, the feast was going to be after the satsang and the puja and everything. And so I'm down in the kitchen cooking and somebody comes in and he goes like, do you want me to do the papadums, right? So if you know what papadums are, there's these, they're made out of uridal and like little, you put them in oil and they expand a little bit and they're nice and crispy, like big cracker things, right? Very nice. And it's always, always have papadums. And he goes, I'll do the papadums. I'm grew up doing papadums in my, grandfather's restaurant or whatever. And so he's doing the papadums. And remember, I was spending 3 days, planning this meal and cooking and everything. And so everybody comes down and we serve this meal. And I'm going around asking if anybody wants seconds. I'm carrying stuff around. And everyone's telling me how wonderful the papadums are. These are great. How do you make these? And then finally I think I was almost to the point where he was going like, you buy them in a package and you put them in some oil. It's nothing. It's the papadums. It's sort of, if you made this big brunch and everyone was asking, saying like, oh, the toast is great. How'd you do the toast? Right? So apparently I had something to learn about karma yoga spirit. I was a little disheartened, right? And I truly believe this was because it happened in the center, and it was, and I truly believe that it was the teachers trying to guide me and make me recognize I was lacking the karma yoga spirit, right? I should have cooked because I wanted to feed people well and I wanted them to enjoy, with no question about whether they praised me or they said like, boy, was this, this is really rotten or whatever, right? Just give your best spirit, give your best love, your caring, right? Do your dharma, do your duty. Do it with a sense of caring, with a sense of love, and then let go. Let it go. And then you don't suffer. There's no suffering. Think about how many times you've not done something, or you've been afraid to do something, or afraid to start something because I don't know if it's going to be good enough. I don't know what people are going to say if I do this. Are people going to like this? We can't control that. We can't control how people are going to react to what we do. And it doesn't mean you do things heedlessly and don't pay any attention, because we can learn. Right? You do something, I've done lots of things as staff because they as part of doing karma yoga, they just go like, do something you've never done before in front of 150 people. It's like, okay. Something that everybody's going to notice. Okay. You just do it. And someone comes up and go like, you should have done it this way. And like, okay, I'll take that under advisement, and I'll try to learn to do it better next time I'm asked to do this. And again, I joke about, thing about being staff, but we're not always put into a position because we're the best person for that job in terms of our training and things. But it may be the training that we need. It may be the karma yoga training we need, right? We're taught to, I've been moved from a center I was running. I've been told like that, oh, by the way, you're catching a flight tomorrow morning. Someone's coming in tonight. You're going to show them show them around, and then you have a flight tomorrow morning to another place. Okay. You're right. And everything that you've done, you walk away. You let go. Right? But it's taught me a lot about just doing my best and, not taking anything for granted, not to hold on to things, right? To do things only because it's the best thing to do. But the real teaching of the Gita comes in the fact that it's the karma yoga and the, what we call jnana yoga, the yoga of wisdom, the yoga of knowledge. That knowledge, remember I said he changed his perspective? Krishna grabbed Arjuna and like pulled him up, gave him the God's eye view of the world. That jnana yoga says you are a divine being. You are in this body, this physical body, because of karma, and this body is living out this karma. And it's the body that's suffering. And it's the mind that suffers. Because when we identify with the body and the mind, we forget who we are. And we're seeking something. What are we seeking? Happiness, love, peace. And where do we find those? Why are we seeking that? And why to Krishna is it ridiculous to be seeking that? Because you are absolute love. You are absolute peace. You are absolute bliss. But because we identify with the body and mind, we're looking for it out here. That's why we are always disappointed. Even if we don't seem to be disappointed at first, I hate to sound pessimistic, right? So let's say you get what you want. Oh, I got my thermos. Oh, now I have to be worried because I can lose it. I can break it. It can be taken. So there's that concern there, right? So already my joy is diminished as soon as I start worrying about it. Or something does happen to it. I do break it, or I do lose it, or somebody steals it, or get it someplace, right? And then I'm upset because it isn't here. So it's those two paths of yoga, that karma yoga and that jnana yoga, that learning to do action by letting go and remembering who I am, that's going to allow me to find that permanent peace, that permanent happiness. And so we're seeking that knowledge, we're seeking that wisdom of the self. And the Gita says it explicitly. It says that we can find perfection by perfecting karma yoga. Because it actually isn't a different path than the jnana yoga. So jnana yoga is direct. We talk about it like, it's climbing up the El Capitan, the mountain, like the rock face. You're climbing up straight. You're going like this. None of this is real. This body isn't real. I'm just going to identify with the self. Karma yoga says, number one, I'm going to thin my ego by not thinking of myself all the time. I'm not the center of the universe. In terms of my incarnation as this physical body, but I'm something divine. I actually am that Atman that doesn't change, that is unchanging, that is permanent, that doesn't get affected by anything, that is bliss absolute. And bliss absolute means unconditional bliss. It means it doesn't matter what's happening. That's who I am. Can I identify with that while still being in this physical body? And that's what makes yoga unique. Because lots of spiritual traditions can talk about, having this liberation, this identifying with being a divine being after you leave this body. Yoga says you can do it while you are in this body, but it requires that you detach. You detach from your actions, you detach from the body, and you don't deny the body, but you do the correct actions and let go of the results. So Shankaracharya has, when in his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, Shankaracharya has a beautiful analogy he gives. And he says, let's say you're on a raft going down the river. As you're going down the river, the scenery's changing, the scenery's passing you by. And at moments you can feel like you're on a raft going down the river and the scenery staying still and you're moving past it. So you can change your vantage point, and you can feel as if you're sitting still and everything else is going past you. Everything else is changing. Do you see that? I know times where I've been sitting trains that happen. So you're in a train station and the train next to you starts to move and you think you're moving, right? But the train's moving, right? So which one is it? What is happening as we go through this life? Are we moving through a static world? Or are we unchanging and everything is changing around us? Everything is moving past us. It's a point of view. Which are you going to identify with? So just to prove that I'm talking about the fourth discourse, I'm going to read a little bit from that. Okay. So this is Krishna speaking. So we're kind of in the middle of a conversation, but I'll read the whole verse. Having known this, the ancient seekers after freedom also performed action. Therefore, do thou also perform action, as did the ancients in days of yore. So he's saying, don't think that freedom comes from doing action. Right? It's not about renouncing action. We're compelled to do action just by the very fact that we're born into this body, because we have karma to live out. We're going to be compelled to do action. Even the great seers, right? We would even say, even Swami Shivananda did action. The question is, how do we do it? And we have to understand what is action and what truly is inaction. For verily, the true nature of action should be known. Also of forbidden action and of inaction. Hard to understand is the nature or the path of action. It's hard to understand, and yet we compelled to do action constantly. It's kind of like breathing, We tell people to come in, take some breathing lessons, and you kind of go like, what I know how to breathe. I've been doing it all my life. I don't need lessons on how to breathe. And yet you take a few lessons of breathing, go, hey, that's easier than I thought it was going to be. Like all of a sudden, breathing's not a painful thing anymore. Suddenly breathing feels like it actually contributes. It's the same thing with action. We've been doing action our entire life. And now all of a sudden it goes like, I need to explain what action is. And you should understand this, because if you understand truly what action is, you will feel liberated. Just knowing that can liberate you, even though you may still need to do action. It's how you do it that is the key. So here's every TTC's favorite verse out of the Gita. He who sees inaction in action and action in inaction, he is wise among men. He is a yogi and a performer of all actions. Right? That's the 18th verse out of the fourth discourse. So this question of, can we be one who sees the difference between inaction in action, and action in inaction. So let's just break this up a little bit. What is inaction in action? No, that would be somebody doing action. Physically, our physical body is moving about, doing things, and the mind is still. Not only is the mind still, but there's not even identifying with the mind. You're identifying with that unchanging self. You're not identifying as being the doer. Right? So, you know, let's say I'm going to retire to the cave and I just want to do my meditation, right? But I've got some supplies in there, so I've got to cook. I've got to do things, right? So even in that case, I have to do things. I have to take action. I have to eat. Right? I have to drink water. Right? Even that's action. Right? But can I be identified not as the body, but as that self, as that indweller, that is that absolute bliss, that absolute love, that absolute peace. And whatever action I'm taking, I'm doing it because it is the correct action to do. And the other side of the equation, I won't say equation, the other side of the statement is, so I want to know the difference between that inaction in action and action in inaction. And here it's saying that we may appear to be doing nothing, and yet the mind may be attached even to the doing nothing. Like when Arjuna said, I will not fight, he may have thought he's doing inaction by not fighting, but it was really an action. It was a decision he made not to fight. And he's identifying as, look at me, I'm not fighting. It really is not inaction, even though it appears to be. So inaction and freedom from action is not by not doing something, by not performing actions. True inaction, true freedom from action, true freedom from karma is only achieved when we really identify with the self. When we realize I am not this doer. So I start off, how do I get to that state? I start off just looking to do things because it's the correct thing to do, looking for opportunities. Again, this is the idea of service. Looking for the opportunity to serve. Because then I train myself not to be the center of my universe. That this individual person, for me, Swami Jnana is not the center of the universe. A whole lot of other stuff going on there. So, you know, we as individuals, we try to serve other individuals. And by doing that, we start to thin that ego. We start to break down those barriers that separate me, that make me feel as if I am a separate individual. It makes me feel as if, you know, that strengthens the illusion that I am separate, that I'm something less than absolute bliss, something less than absolute love. And as I continue to practice, it becomes, again, the nature of my mind. It becomes the habit of my mind. Again, we have to change that habit of the mind of seeing myself as somebody separate, and, you know, breaking away from the of following all of my personal desires. Try to see the bigger picture. Try to see the world as this plane of possibilities. And as I do that, because again, when I'm trying to fulfill my desires, which is what most people are doing on some level, when I'm trying to fulfill my desires, then there's success and failure in my actions. There's you know, pleasure and pain in my actions, and I can cause others pleasures and pain. When I let go of that and just do my best, do what is correct, and do my best and identify as being that higher self, I start to recognize the higher self in others. I see others as the higher self, because we don't see that, again, because of our own, we strengthen our barriers and we see the barriers around others. And as long as we're doing that, we're strengthening our barriers and we're seeing the barriers around others, we never find complete happiness because we're looking outside for it. We never find complete love because we're looking outside for it. And we never find complete peace because we're looking outside for it. And we don't understand where it's really coming from. So the tired cliche, the sun is always there. When the clouds are out, we say there's no sun. Right? The happiness, the bliss, the love, the peace is always there. But when the activity of the mind, and we identify with the mind and the body, we don't see the peace, we don't see the love, we don't see the bliss. We only see the clouds. And we have to break the clouds. And we break the clouds. Very, very fundamental step is karma yoga, is the service, serving others. So I can be that raft flowing down the river, or I can be sitting still on the raft, unmoving, and everything else is changing around me. I can identify with that unchanging self and be at peace, be in happiness, no matter what is happening around me. And it doesn't mean that I don't see actions to be taken. Okay, that's the key. That my ability to see what's correct to do changes. It's not that I go like, yes, everybody's suffering, but I'm happy. I'm blissed, so I don't have to do anything, right? No, because again, as I break down those walls, I see everybody as myself. My duty is to try to relieve the suffering of others. The love that I seek, we never feel the love that we seek from others. When do we experience the love that we seek? When we actually open our heart and give the love that we are. That's when you actually experience love. It's when you give love. But we spend our life walking around going, why does somebody love me? Give me love. I want love. But you are that love. But you have to experience it. You have to find it and give it. Then you experience love. Even when somebody loves us and we go like, oh, I love them back, right? We're actually really experiencing our own love, that love that is our own self. But we do it often selfishly, right? So, somebody decides they don't love us anymore, and it's like, well, I'm not going to love you. I'm going to take my love back. And they can drop the wall. We drop the wall. So the happiness we seek, the love that we seek, the peace that we seek comes from giving it. And how do we give that? We give that by service. We give that by our actions. And the more that we can make our actions linked to that, and this is what I mean by pure action, that purity of action. It comes without my own personal desires, without my attachment to the results of the actions. I give my love and I don't even care if they love me back. I give my love even if they hate me. I'm generous even if they don't recognize how generous I'm being. We give. We just keep giving. Give of yourself, give of your time, give of your care. Some of the most precious things we have to give are our attention, and our time. Time is a precious commodity. Money, there's money all over the place. Give your time as something, right? Even if it's time of thought, even if it's time of prayer, even if it's time of just sitting and wishing well to somebody. Like that's an action. That's service. And so often we feel like there's nothing we can do. I don't know what I can give. I don't know. I see the problems of the world. What can I do? Just start giving. Okay, again, giving of service. Doing around you without concern about yourself. But then what else do we do? And sometimes we talk like this, and Swami Sita brought it up this morning, I think it was this morning or last night. She was talking about people who are like, I don't want to be a doormat. I don't want to be a doormat. And it's just like, hey, it's an honor to be a doormat. I can clean shoes. And so, but taking care of ourselves also can be also karma yoga. Right? So the idea is not to give up. Again, don't be attached to inaction. You don't have to give up your actions. You have to change your attitude to your actions. Maybe some actions you should give up. Right? But you don't have to quit your job. You have to make your job into service. Right? You have to change your viewpoint on what it is you're doing. Change how you look at what you're doing. And so even when you're doing your sadhana, when you're doing your meditation, that can be karma yoga. How can it be karma yoga? Because I'm meditating so I can find my inner peace so I can share that. I'm doing my asanas, but I'm eating. Right? We eat as karma yoga. What are we doing? We're giving ourselves fuel so that I have the energy to serve, to do service for people. Right? When I'm doing my asanas, I'm doing my pranayama. Okay, any of that can become karma yoga. It's a very, very good practice. Again, to do it because why? Because this is how I can serve better. This is how I can serve the world. This is how I can serve God. If you're more of a bhakti, then this is how I can serve God. When I'm serving others, I'm serving God in them. The jnana yogi, I'm serving the self and others. Looking for opportunities to serve, looking for opportunities to give. And again, it's the little things that we do. And so a very, very good starting point when I'm teaching beginners, I think all of you are more advanced. I recognize most of you are more advanced in this. But when I'm teaching beginners, it's just like, when you want something, offer it to somebody else first. That's the simplest way, right? If you're about to open a door, is there someone else I can open the door for first? Just instantly looking for, as soon as I'm about to reach for something, there's somebody that I can reach, give this, that's going to be about to reach for this too, and I can hand it to them. But just try to serve others. As soon as your mind comes up with a desire, try to give it to somebody else first before you give it to yourself. Again, take yourself out of that center of the universe thinking. Expand you're looking for others around you. But all of your actions you do, just turn it into service for others. If you work in an office, you're serving others in the office. It doesn't mean you have to give up your paycheck. It just means that don't work for your paycheck. Work for and make it a service. Find your place in this society that, we think of the clockwork, all right? We're all little cogs in the clockwork. Be a good cog. Be a selfless cog. Do your dharma. Again, this is what, our karma puts us in situations so we can determine what our dharma is. What is my duty in this situation? What should I do? And of course, the main question is, how do I know what my dharma is in this situation? And as you practice, it becomes more clear. And you may actually make mistakes. I mean, there's things I've done that at the time I thought I was doing the right thing and I did the best that I could. I look back on it now, it's like, if I was in that same situation now, I would probably do things a little bit differently. But I am happy, I'm content in the fact that I did the best that I could. That I did, for where I was at, I did what was correct. Because that's part of the karma too. Karma is that we end up in these situations at a certain point in our life. But that's where you get to be the wise elder. You get to, people come in, what should I do here? And well, that's what I think. This is how I see it. Right? But again, we have to allow other people to do their dharma as well. So you become more forgiving for people. It's okay, they didn't do what you might think is perfect. Because you know what? Just as I know that I would do something different now than I did, 20 years ago. Yeah, 20 years, I'll probably think of it, see it differently then again. Right? It's a momentary solution that my mind comes up, right? It will change too. But I think it should be correct, will change too. Okay. There's one more verse out of the Bhagavad Gita that I want to read about. And this, you may recognize it because it's the one that we say at the beginning of our meals. And I don't know why I'm trying to look it up because I actually know it, but Pramarpanam Brahmajir Pramagano Pramanahutam Brahmavatena Gantam Yam Brahmakarma Samadhina. Okay. This is the oblation, the offering is Brahman. The ghee that we offer is Brahman. So the pictures that you have a home, you have the fire, the sacred fire, and we're offering ghee into the fire. This is part of one of the rituals that we do. The person making the offering is Brahman, is that absolute self. The fire that I'm offering into is Brahman. So he who sees Brahman everywhere verily shall reach Brahman. I think it's the 22nd verse in the fourth discourse, or 24th. So this is, why do we say this before we eat? Sounds like a funny prayer. It doesn't say, oh Lord, thank you for this food. Or bless this food or something. But it's a very important, and it explains a lot about why were the Sivananda Yogdanta centers. It's the name of the organization, right? Because what it's saying, if you think about it in terms of eating, right? The act of eating is Brahman. The fire that's going to digest it is Brahman. The food I'm eating is Brahman. The person eating, I am Brahman. I'm turning it into an unselfish act. I'm reminding myself that this is, if I can focus on being Brahman, and all of this is Brahman, there is no action. This is the inaction and action. Even though I'm eating, nothing is happening. If I'm identifying with the absolute, if I'm identifying with Brahman. I'm just Brahman feeding Brahman. That's it. Okay? And so that's how we make our food sacred. That's how we make the act of eating sacred, is by stepping back and saying, I'm going to be in action. I'm going to be identifying with Brahman. So I am taking the action of eating, which is necessary to sustain this body. Nothing is happening. I'm doing the true inaction. The true inaction is when I identify with the self. Are there any questions or comments?
You mentioned time.
Uh-huh.
Isn't time an illusion?
So I mentioned time. Isn't time an illusion? Yes. But so is the mat you're sitting on. Yeah, and just as you can give and take your mat away, you can give of time and take your time away. Mm-hmm. So this is, we're in this world, right? Because again, when I give time, actually nothing is happening. And yet, if that can help somebody who is also, living out in this vehicle, in this body vehicle, then this is, Swami Shivananda says, in this birth, it's the most precious thing we have is our time, because our time is limited. We're living out this karma, and we have lessons to learn. And so what is time? Time can be like how many pieces of karma I go through. And how are we measuring time? Is it seconds? But it's really how many breaths I have. There's things to get done in this life. Things to lessons to learn in this life. And in this life, I have the opportunity to go through karma that's going to teach me how to identify with the self. But if I'm spending that time and I'm spending those karmic events, those karmic situations, trying to get more materially for myself, then I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting my karma. If I'm spending those karmic situations trying to learn the lessons to identify with the self, then I'm using that karma wisely. And in the same way, I can, that's why I said it's the giving of your time, is that instead of focusing on my own pleasures and what I can get out of it, materially, monetarily, name, fame wise, I'm going to offer that time for someone else's benefit. Then what am I doing? That's actually helping me use that karmic situation as an opportunity to identify with the self, to detach from the body and the mind, the pleasure and pain, name and fame. Yeah. So again, you can change your concept of what time is. It's a measure of, of my span of existence in this incarnation. Before this incarnation, how much can I achieve in this incarnation? And my achievement, it shouldn't be how big is my bank balance or how many people know my name. It should be how much peace have I found, or how much peace have I given, or how much love have I given. Swami Shivananda says to measure your progress by how patient you are. Have you gained more patience? Have you gained more tolerance? Yes, then you can measure your progress in life. Because the salute would be, nothing bothers me. Whatever somebody does, I just feel love for them. Right? That's where we want to be. That's the jnana yogi. Right? Which is, most people think jnana yoga, it means like, oh, I'm so intellectual, right? My intellect is so polished, right? But if you have self-realization, then you have love for everybody, no matter what they're doing, no matter what's happening. Again, that's what the equal vision we talk about. Everybody is that divine self. So, we could just be practicing giving what we have. And the main thing, the most valuable thing we have, is that time. Use our karmic situations, our karmic events as opportunities to serve others. Think of others first before we think about, like, what should I do for me in this situation? How can I help others in this situation? Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you all very much. Oh.